Welcome back, everyone, to All Things Pink. I am your host, Julie Majors, and I'm so happy to have with me today our friend and my colleague and just really awesome person, Mary Vargas.
I'm so happy to be here.
Out in the open to the horizon, where your heart can finally breathe. Out in the open to the horizon, baby, let your love run wild, wild, wild. You gotta get out there and explore, baby, let your love run wild, wild, wild.
Today, we're going to have an interesting conversation about traditional gender roles and kind of where women have come. It's a long history of being independent, empowered, powerful women, and how far we've come, and how far we actually haven't come. So first I'm going to ask you a question, and I think this is we all have a different definition sometimes, and depending on where you come from, what does it actually mean to be an empowered woman?
Well, I think ideally it would mean that you, what you are is not qualified by the fact that you're male or female. You just are what you are, and it doesn't need any kind of qualification. People say, "Oh, you're a female doctor," or "You're a female lawyer." No, you're just a lawyer.
Yeah,
you're just a doctor. So I feel like as long as we're sort of qualifying who we are in that way, it's a sign that we have a lot further to go.
Oh yeah, we still do it. We still do it. I think we still question ourselves. But I also think being empowered, just for anybody, being empowered is knowing who you are, mm-hmm. and knowing what you want, and being able to get those things for yourself, and that it's okay. It's totally okay to go after what you want, get whatever degree you want, go to whatever field you want to go in, and not have to even think twice that you might be a woman in a typically male job or field, or vice versa,
right? And
it's totally okay. I'd love to be in a place where we didn't even think about that it didn't even
we've got a long way to go,
cross our minds, or I didn't have to be watching something and roll my eyes because of something that was said, mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she's just getting emotional, because she's the she. And mm-hmm. I was like, well, I've seen some men get pretty damn emotional. Okay. So today we're going to challenge some of these, societal norms, and what I believe society's been talking about the shift in the roles, and that it's not by design. So by design, and to make it really quick, is that, we are the nurturers, men are the providers. And you've seen that shit. I know. Just breathe. I'm just going by the history here.
I'm trying not to say all the things right now.
It's totally
and I am
okay.
Really struggling.
But I think that it's really important for everyone to be aware and recognize where we came from, because ultimately there is, there was the breadwinners and there was the nurturers. And the crazy part to me, I think we're humans, and humans have the power to be both. And you can. There's lots of arguments about this. But I also think this push, or should I say, the lack of being afforded empowerment, or having it challenged or taken away from us, is what caused us as women to become hyper independent. And our hyper independence has made us angry.
Well, this is a whole different topic, but it sort of reminds me a little bit of the theories of narcissistic abuse, where someone has been abused, and it's not always, but very often, a woman, and then they go into a court system, and the woman reacts to that abuse, and the court looks at that reaction as not rational, when it is a reaction to really abnormal behavior and abuse.
Exactly.
So I think
that's exactly what I'm saying.
What
I am saying this because I'm okay, how did we get so hyper independent? It was bad when we weren't. It's bad when we are. And we're okay, But how do
Well,
we get there?
I think it's expected of us, except when it's not, right? Like, you're supposed to be able to do everything. You're supposed to have it all under control. You're supposed to be a single parent to your kids. You're not supposed to get alimony. You're not supposed to get child support. You're supposed to have it all together and manage everything calmly at all times and be everywhere all at once. And then when you don't...
But then that goes against the argument. So the traditional roles would be kind of like half and half, right? We do this person does this, and you work as a team, right? I mean, I'm just thinking out loud.
I mean, I wonder, though,
Like-
how much it was ever really like that. You know, I certainly know that men and women traditionally had different roles. But I wonder how much of a true partnership it was most
I think
of
you'd
the
have
time.
to dial it like way back, like way, like as in like hieroglyphics way.
Okay.
Like way, like if you were to, and I'm kind of like, we've evolved, you know, we're here now. But I think when it was like that, it was much longer ago than we kind of immediately think of in
But
history.
it wasn't. I mean, women
Yeah.
couldn't have credit cards in like our lifetime, you know.
Exactly.
So I don't think it was certainly not evolutionary very long ago.
No.
It's really recent.
And that's really a hard one whenever I bring that up, whenever I'm in this kind of argument, is that I'm like, it really wasn't that long ago that we had very little rights and what we had to fight for. And I don't believe that the movement was meant for us to be like, you know, vigilantes or like be angry all the time. I think it was really just to have a voice.
Well, I think that's a caricature too. I think that's something that people say when they're threatened by how women conduct themselves. So, you know, whether women are angry or not, you know, humans have reasons to be angry, and I'm angry sometimes and sometimes I'm not.
Yeah.
But, you know, I don't think this idea that somehow women are angry is, I think that's part of a narrative that's not accurate.
That would be an overgeneralization.
Yes.
Because not all of us are. Like, not all of us are. I really think that the fight that I believe in is that the reason behind it is because we were suppressed for so long and just wanted an equal opportunity.
Well, right, and I think sometimes when someone expects an equal opportunity, regardless of what groups they identify with, when someone wants an equal opportunity, somebody who doesn't want them to have that or is threatened by it finds fault in how they assert it, or the fact that
Of
they want it, or
course.
they're angry, or they're dangerous, or they're crazy, or whatever else.
Fear-mongering tends, and you see that everywhere. Like we see that still today in politics and you know, along every line. And I think that a lot has changed, but so much has not.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think we have more opportunities. I think it's more we have the ability to be heard more, because I mean, you have different avenues. Like, we're sitting here being heard right now by somebody somewhere. So this would have been unheard of a long time ago. So there are opportunities, but what do you think has not changed?
The fundamental premise that the world is centered around men.
Could you explain that?
Does that sound angry? No, we are expected to center our lives around men in terms of getting married, in terms of having families, in terms of careers, in terms of when we walk away from those careers, in terms of how we prioritize those careers as compared to our families. And still today, maybe even more so today than a year ago, when you look at who is making decisions, who's in places of power, it's increasingly a picture of white men. Mm-hmm. And that is supposed to be normal. And I don't think it is normal. And I don't even.
I think that's conditioning. And you know what's funny? The first one you mentioned was this expectation to get married and have kids. Mm-hmm. And I think even in when I was growing up, that expectation was there. There was pushback because I was like, well, what if I don't want to?
Mm-hmm.
I was a little different because I was like, I don't care.
Well, and I did want to. I mean, it was interesting. I was raised by a mom who, in some sense, wanted me to always have the ability to care for myself if I needed to. At the same time, I was also raised by a mom who, taught me how to polish the silver and, make cookies and, do all these traditionally feminine things. So I did want to get married. I did get married really young.
Yeah.
But I also don't think at the time that I got married, I understood even the concept of centering a man in a person's life. And
That can be hard.
right.
Yeah, that's definitely a hard balance depending upon like what you're battling with, like what you want. But did you want kids because somebody told you to want kids, or because you truly did?
Oh, I wanted kids.
Exactly.
I absolutely wanted kids.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we're still in a place where we're expected to want that.
And if I'm being perfectly honest, there are parts of traditional gender roles that I
Yeah.
quite like.
And that's
I don't think
okay.
I
I
should
think
have
that's
to
totally-
follow them. But
Yeah, that was my point. Was like you want them because you want them, not because somebody is telling you
right.
you have to want them. And
Right.
I think it's totally and completely okay for women to work and be moms and have other things in their life and still be able to be a mom.
But I think our generation, in some sense, was told that we could have everything, but it wasn't realistic because we were expected to maintain all the traditional roles and also take on all the other roles and then literally do everything. And that's not possible for anybody, and it's not healthy for anybody.
Well, I think it's like there's a difference between like wanting more, and I really think that should have been rephrased like that you can have more versus
Or you can choose what you
or
want.
you can choose, but I'm pretty sure it didn't mean you're going to be required to do everything.
But that is the reality for
That is
a lot of women.
absolutely the reality. It's mind-blowing how much that actually happens, where we're trying to achieve all things, but then we end up juggling all the balls. And no, I definitely don't think it's healthy. I've done it. It's hard and it's great. I'm like, yes, I lived through that, but it would have behooved me to balance that out just like a little bit
Right.
more.
Right.
But
Right.
I never really wanted a traditional gender role to define my existence. It just wasn't in me, especially if somebody told me it. I had to. Like then it was like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna go over here. I mean, because that was just me. But I think that we got to be hyper independent solely based on what we were being almost forced into, or like
Are we
told
hyper
we had to.
independent though? Hyper sounds bad. Hyper sounds like something.
It
not
can be
normal.
unhealthy, and well, it's kind of like what you were saying, like your conditioning. You're like,
Would you
okay,
ever
we've
say
been
that about a
suppressed.
man? Would you ever say a man is hyper independent? I don't think so. I've never heard anyone
No, I would
say
call him
that.
hyper dependent sometimes. Like I'm just saying, like there's
Keeping it real.
yeah, like again, it's a generalization, but we get accused of. The reason I brought it up is because you get this accusation that hyper-independence is bad. But where did it come from?
Mm-hmm.
It comes from, there's like this cause and effect thing that nobody wants to see. Like, right? Like it's kind of like, an argument and people blame you for their reaction.
Right.
Or your reaction to their bad behavior. Okay,
Right.
well let's dial that back and like figure out like what happened here. That's what if we got to be hyper independent, it was likely kind of preservation. Like, we were not saying we want to carry the entire damn load. I don't believe at any time anybody said that. I believe that women just wanted a voice and they wanted to stop being suppressed and have opportunities, the same opportunity You know, not saying that you should give me this over somebody that's more qualified. We just want to be, I'm going to be in the running. Like, that's not fair. The fact that we couldn't even have credit cards, it was the 70s?
I think so.
The stinking 70s, okay? Like, you know, we're already doing all of these things, like, and there was still that level of control.
Right.
And I do think some of that hasn't changed.
Correct.
So some of the, and I feel like I've experienced some pretty serious, and I mean like literally in the last couple years. Like, that's not when I was young. I did back then, but I kind of heard and experienced some pretty ridiculous things that just like literally have to stop for a second and go, I'm sorry, let me check my phone. What year is it? Like,
Right.
what are we talking about here?
Right.
Is this happening?
Right. So I went to my first jury trial in 2013, and I was super nervous, and it was not in our state, it was in Nebraska. So I called
Sorry, I'm laughing.
other lawyers in Nebraska to sort of get the lay of the land and what should I expect in terms of this jury trial. And the only advice that I remember that I received was that you cannot wear pants in court. And it was 2013. What do you mean I can't wear pants? Like, I thought they were joking,
That
and
is
they were not joking.
insanity.
They were not joking. I was first chair on a federal trial,
Yeah.
and I couldn't wear pants? Are you kidding me?
Just the fact like that it was said like out
And it
loud.
wasn't said by just one person. It was at least two people. And at some point I started saying, somebody told me this. Is that true? Oh yeah, that's true. You should not wear. And there was a chief judge who was our judge at trial who was a woman. How can that be?
So that's where I guess the conditioning and the like just things linger. Like, I guess, like a virus. Like it just lingers and lingers, and yeah, you have to kind of stop for a minute and be like, excuse me, what? Like, this is still happening?
Well, it's like this idea that you can have a job, but it's a male job, and you have to
So
conform
you have
to
to
it by
dress
still
like-
making sure that you look like a woman, have your skirt on. Yeah.
God. I was told once that I in advocacy, like, won this case because I was pretty.
Nice. That's just what everybody wants to win a case for.
Yeah.
Right?
It's great. Like, but it had nothing to do, and of course I have to say something, so I was like, oh, that's right, it had absolutely nothing to do with the years of work and the research and the advocating and, the hours and sleepless nights and, honing in on my craft that I did to make sure that this happened. And it was just immediately
Instant devaluation.
yeah, it was, and I'm just like, wow, this was less than 5 years ago, and I'm thinking, we really have got, like, we're stuck. We didn't go back in time. Like, there's people that are literally stuck back there, and we still hear it, though. We still encounter it.
I think it's baked into so many of our systems too. It's how it's done.
Well, I feel like if they just, like, gave certain things a chance, that they'd understand that there's things about women that can do certain things very well. Like, very well.
I mean, I think everybody coughing on that one. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and
Yeah.
that's it. That's all it is. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses, and some of them are men and some of them are women.
Exactly, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that that's okay. We were made differently, but that doesn't mean that, I think of, like, cave people, and I'm like, I mean, I can lift the boulder.
I
I don't particularly want to.
can't.
Like, I don't particularly want to. But I bet if a few of us got together, we're going to pick up that boulder, especially if, like, the caveman says that we can't. Because I guarantee we're going to craft some tools or something, and we're lifting
Right.
that boulder. Like,
Right, so
we'll probably have,
recently-
like, a plan and, like, a map and strategy for it. But, yeah.
Recently, I have a terrific law partner, and we often work with local counsel, other lawyers who are terrific, and most of the people I work with are men. And recently we had a situation where my law partner, who is wonderful and enlightened, said, well, let's have Mary do it because we really need somebody to mom this guy. And I was like,
That's slippery.
I mean, I knew what he meant.
I got you.
And
I
it's
got
something
you.
I'm really good at.
Yes, it is.
But like sometimes you kind of bristle it. You have to do that. Like, why can't you?
Yeah.
Why can't you tough love it? Why
Yeah,
can't
yeah. I think it's great that you know, I have mommed clients, so like, yeah, it's hard because I also try not to take offense when it is something I'm really good at.
Right.
But it's also somewhat ingrained in me, so I have to stop on things like that and go, don't get upset.
Well, right, and there's like
Do
good
not
cop, bad cop.
internalize that. You know.
Sometimes I'm better situated to be the good cop, and sometimes I'm better situated to be the bad cop.
Right.
But something about it kind of gave me pause.
But
it was true. Someone did need to mom that man, and it did need to be me because
So you
my
totally
law partner
rocked
was
it
not.
out.
He
You
is
totally rocked it
brilliant, but was not up to that.
Yeah.
That was not his thing.
So it does work. Like sometimes that completely works, but I think there's a difference between putting somebody down for those qualities and saying, actually, we really need you.
Right.
to
It was.
just-
It
right.
was. You're really good at
That's
this.
what I mean. Like,
can't
so
do
that's
this.
like the opposite of what was said to me. Was like that was in a like, you know, you couldn't have done that by yourself. You
Right.
know, there's different. So we don't want to overgeneralize, but you know, I've heard things like
What
that.
did you hear?
And I want to be really, because people can choose whatever types of relationships they want. I really don't care. But when you have to put clothes out
Are you
for
kidding me?
your person, I don't care what gender you are, okay? And they are grown. They're grown, okay? Like, because it's what's expected of
Right.
you. I apologize. I cannot not raise an eyebrow because I'm like, or that's your job, or I've heard this one recently. Both people are working, and the woman's job is pennies compared to his. Mind you, she's also doing all the work at home, and I've heard that. I find that repulsive because I'm like, okay, so she's not only doing all this stuff at home, but she's also working.
Right.
But we're going to continue to put her down. It's still not good enough. It's still not, you know, what?
Right. Right.
Like this is the kind, but this still exists. Like
When I moved
mainstream
into,
America, this still exists.
When I moved into a neighborhood, which shall remain nameless, in Frederick County, when my children were little, I was invited to a neighborhood party with the women in the neighborhood, and I was thrilled to be included because we didn't know anyone. And during the course of the party, the women started talking about their husbands or something, and I made the mistake of, when someone asked me, well, don't you get up and make your husband breakfast?
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Why would I do that?
What?
Why would I do that? I was not invited back to another party. They were horrified. They were horrified that I would just let him fend for himself. And that just was crazy to me, but it was very normal. It was very normal.
And I'm
in
going to
this
venture to
community.
guess this was not that long ago.
It would have been in 2004, probably.
Okay, so it's 20 years, but still, that still happens.
Right.
I used to think about this when I moved into a neighborhood, which will also remain nameless, because I was the only female in the entire neighborhood who mowed the grass. Like,
yes.
you could tell.
Yes,
like,
I mowed
you
the
could
grass
tell.
too.
Like, I was like,
It was
why is this weird? Like, why,
And
you
there
know?
was a lovely side to it of, we had a neighbor who would like come and shovel the snow because he knew that my now
Oh man,
ex-husband
I
was
wish I
not
lived
going
in
to
that
do it.
neighborhood.
Like, and it was lovely that he did that for me, and I appreciated it. But yeah,
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're like, I literally noticed it.
mm-hmm.
Beyond all, the white picket fences, I'm sitting there like, I am literally the only one.
Yeah.
And I was a single mom at the time, and I was like, okay, well, there's no guy on a horse coming in here right now to mow my grass. So I guess I better get my butt out here and mow the grass. What? But I understand like that, because to this day I'll hear stuff, or I'll be like, there'll be like negative comments. It's not accepted that I chose to work and have, I still have kids, but that I spend any amount of time not, looking after them or him or whatever. And I'm like, for God's sake, he can make his own food.
Right.
Like, you could dress yourself.
Right.
Like, it's not really necessary. And I think that that's when I'm like, wow, that's when I start to ask, like, in my brain, when things like that happen, or when you hear things, or when somebody makes a joke about, wasn't that just like a woman, or like, she should know her place. I'm like, exactly what place is that? Like, but we worked so hard to get where we are. I feel like, and unfortunately, we've had to work so hard to get where we are and to constantly prove ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that attitude, even by other women, sets us back. Like, it's one of those things that it's like, okay, you're not helping us, okay? Like we want to be able to have the choice. And if you choose to stay home and do that, that's great.
Right.
Good for you. Totally not putting it down. But some of us have chosen other paths, and I think that that's okay. It's the same thing as anybody choosing anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm really lucky to be surrounded in my life at this point by women who, some stay at home, some don't. There's a range of lifestyles that they have, but I know that they would be there for me in a heartbeat if I needed it, and I know that they're going to lift me up every time. They're also going to be real and tell me the things I don't want to hear. But I really think some of the greatest strength in my life is from my friends who are women.
Oh yeah, there's definitely something to be said for surrounding yourself with things you want to see in yourself and people that lift you. And I think just the fact that we as a gender do not support each other, or that we put each other down, not within our group, I hope, but just out there, and like not supporting choices that somebody would make, kind of sets us back. It puts us back even further, because now it's not just men or society, it's our fellow women putting us down. Yeah, like you're stoking that fire.
Yeah.
So what do you think some other things are that set us back? Not just, and I don't mean like I'm going away from any, like, I'm not pointing the finger at the men right now. I'm gonna like completely step away from men. The things I think that also set us back are things that we as a gender do. And that was one of them, was that if we're not going to be supportive of each other, then we can't necessarily expect society as a whole to be supportive of us. We have to be strong. We have to be like there for each other. But there's other things that are done. And I think that the damn pendulum swings when the extremists, we can be angry, like we can be angry, but when we decide, and I say this about anybody who wants to get a point across, any time, when you go rogue, and and I hate to laugh at it, like I work in advocacy, and sometimes like I'm like, we need to take this from a 10 to like at least a 5 because nobody's hearing the good thoughts that you have.
Yeah.
You know, so when we do exactly what we're being blamed for doing, it creates this setback. Like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to be like the crazy, like,
So
make
at
me
the
mad.
same time, I'm having kind of a visceral reaction to what you're saying.
Okay.
I don't necessarily disagree with any of it, but I'm having this visceral reaction because I feel like the problem isn't women, and the expectation has always been that women are the problem, or that women have to fix the problem, or women have to be different, or interact differently, or not be a bitch, or whatever it is, not be emotional, or whatever it is. Why can't we just be ourselves? And men need to do some work. They need to do some work, and if they haven't done the work, my behavior shouldn't have to change in order to accommodate weakness in anybody.
But I don't think, and I did not mean by that we should accommodate weakness. I feel like
I know you well enough to know you didn't mean that.
For sure. We need to do work on ourselves too to be able to.
But we're doing so much work.
We
Doing
always do.
so much work, and
we always
we
do.
need other people to do work. It's like
Well, I think what you're talking about is like the massive imbalance.
It's that same when there's bad behavior. The problem is if you name the bad behavior, or you need to somehow act differently to prevent the bad behavior, rather than the person who's behaving badly needs to check themselves.
Sure, absolutely. We also behave badly sometimes, and I don't necessarily think it's but that could be for a multitude of reasons. I never behaves badly.
Never.
I think we've all done, like we have. I can totally admit, and I know where it came from. I do. Like, I know where it came from, but I don't want to ever, the reason I don't want to justify necessarily where it came from is because then I'm allowing it to control me, and then I feel less strong.
Right.
And I think that's okay. So I think that when women are advocating for our rights, and we do, and that pendulum swings, just like with anything else, we need to also be able to just pull it back in, because what we're saying is good. It's real.
But I
it's
also
truth.
think anger is incredibly appropriate.
It can be. It can be.
And I totally agree with you that it's hard to hear a message that's all anger. So I agree with you. Bringing it 10 down to 5, totally agree with you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not that it's not warranted. It's that let's forge forward and not allow that to set us back. Because then I feel like whoever caused that anger is actually winning. And I'm like, your message is good. Like, don't let the stereotypes, because that's when you become the stereotype that they're saying that you are, and you're really not. And what you're saying is real and strong and good and truth, and that'll get faded. And I'm like, no, you don't want that, because you want to be strong and you want to be able to prevail. You know what I mean? Like, but it's okay to feel that. It's okay to feel angry.
But I think it's
feel
okay
it
to
frequently.
express it too. Like
and you can, and there's ways to express it. Like, it's really, I've been through a lot of relationship therapy recently. I've learned so much about how to control it and deliver it in a way that is effective and doesn't allow me to lose that core of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And I think that whenever we have societal norms, there's an imbalance. There's this conditioning that's happened that we, for decades, centuries, will fight against. And I think it's okay to stand up. We're talking about things that ultimately set us back. And we want, I think ultimately we want the peace. the peace that, comes from knowing you're right. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We are in so many ways, but we don't want to set each other back, and we don't want to set ourselves back by allowing that bad behavior to make us crumble, and we will. This conditioning, we can't let the conditioning prevail. I can run this podcast and go home and bake cookies. I'm not baking cookies today. I'm too busy with work. But could I? Yeah. But it's just some of the things. Like, sometimes you see that, and I feel like it allows people in society to further try to suppress. They're not going to. But that's, I just see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a time and a place, and there's that whole quotation about well-behaved women have never made history, and
Oh, I know.
I think it's often only women who are expected to behave, and
You are correct.
So that's sort of
I think you're correct, but
right.
people can disagree with me. I think we're moving. I mean, I do think that there have been things that would never have been talked about years ago that we can talk about. Like we're sitting here talking about right now. This would never have been allowed. And there's still going to be people that are like, they're full of crap. I'm not, because I dealt with it. But, we have come a little bit in the way that we're allowed to talk about these things, which would have never happened. So, I mean, I think that that's definitely, like, forged forward, sort of. But also, it's this definition, and now we've come, like, completely full circle. The definition of what it means to be an empowered, independent woman. How do you think, relevant to everything we talked about, that is actually seen today?
By who?
Good points.
I mean, for me, I think it's the ability to speak your truth, right? Like when you can say what you believe, you can say it the way you want to say it. That's empowered.
Yeah.
I think that's very threatening to some people.
I think it's threatening on multiple levels too. I mean, I think of course it is threatening to some men. And by no means are we sitting here
as well.
Yes, and that by no means are we man hating. I don't hate men. I hate very few people. When I use that word, it's strong. Like, I mean it.
It seems to me like you can expect more of men. I'm sorry, I don't mean
No, go ahead.
It seems to me like the idea that it's somehow man-hating to embrace men as whole creatures who are capable of making their own breakfast and doing whatever, that doesn't seem to me like man-hating at all. It seems like the opposite. And the whole idea that a woman who comes into the world trying to heal herself and be whole, be a whole person, be empowered, that's an issue, and that when a man doesn't do any of that, like I'm losing the words here, but
it's hard because, and you know what it is, I think
it's not man-hating, that it's the opposite, in fact.
This is super confusing. I think it's confusing for a lot of people because things have gotten so jumbled and overgeneralized. And yes, I'm sure that there are people that hate, but that's not the majority of us. I don't believe that the majority of women that want to be empowered and that work hard and that create careers and lives for themselves are hating. Are we slightly irritated?
Appropriately so.
Yeah. I mean,
so.
You have your reasons, but I'll tell you. Okay, so example, if you and I are friends, right? And so I did something absolutely repulsive. I verbally abused you. Mm-hmm. I said, I put you down.
Right.
Hypothetically. If I did that to you repeatedly, would it matter that I'm a female?
No.
Would you still feel the same way about me as a human being? Like that, or if I took advantage of you and I said, oh, I can
Not okay.
overpower her. I'm going to do this, or this. I doubt you would feel any different. At that point, you'd be female hating. So, like, if you just change this narrative, right? That's just people. So we're saying, like, okay, these behaviors are bad. But those behaviors would be bad at whoever did them. So I wouldn't call it actually man-hating. It would be
Right.
hating what's happening, hating the thing.
Well, and I think people who behave in those ways sometimes feel threatened or uncomfortable when you call them out. And that's why it then becomes, oh, you're man-hating.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we are actually going to have a part 2 to this conversation that ties right into the tail end of that, the principle of the emasculation of the American male and how that relates to
That's a lot.
It is.
That's a lot.
So you have to stay tuned.
I would
for
like
the
a part in that.
Okay, absolutely.
Well,
those are the parts that
American male. Totally kidding.
And we're, it's going to be a very open conversation about all of these things and how all of this ties into this concept, which again is a concept very similar to, there was this concept that women had to do this, or this. And I always use this example, and I'm going to use it again in part 2, that some of really healthy relationships and partnerships that I have seen had a woman in a traditional male role, and the man took the non-traditional, but was able to still like partner to do things to make that flow work and to work as a team, and it didn't kill anybody. In fact, it was great. And I think it was just like this acceptance that like this may have been how we were brought up, but this is what we're going to do. And they made a healthy choice, and it didn't demean anyone. And I think that they were super supportive of each other. So, I think as we think about moving forward, we need to think about like where we came from and continue to move forward, and people start to understand each other. So that this is not some overgeneralized, hyper anything. We're all just people, and I think we as women have a right and almost a responsibility to go after the things that we want, and we shouldn't be put down for it. So, any final
Agreed.
thoughts on
Agreed.
traditional gender roles, or putting clothes out for someone
I will not be putting
who's
clothes
under the age of 18?
I don't even put my own clothes out. I don't know any clothes
I don't
out
do it for my
anyone.
son. Like, come on,
I
you
will not.
can dress yourself.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on All Things Pink, and thank you to my guests for generously coming in and talking about this wonderful stuff. You can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. And if you are watching, please make sure that you like and subscribe. I want to thank the agency and Frederick for always donating their space so that we can be here. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you here next time for part 2.